Hello students. So today we are going to do a very interesting scene of Act 3, that is scene 4. Now in this scene, Portia devises a clever plan to save Antonio's life. She sends Balthazar, one of her servants, with a letter to Padua where Dr. Bellerio, her cousin and a famous lawyer, lives. She asks Balthazar to bring the doctor's reply to her letter and a lawyer's robe as early as possible. The scene takes us back to Portia's residence at Belmont. Bassanio and Gratiano have already left for Venice. Portia leaves for Venice on the pretext of visiting a monastery till Bassanio returns. She plans to disguise herself as a lawyer and her maid Nerissa as the lawyer's clerk. She bets with Nerissa that when dressed as young men, she would be the prettier fellow of the two. The disguise plan appeals to Portia. She describes how bravely she will wear her dagger and brag or boast of all the manly quests so that men will swear that she has been out of school more than a year. She also tells Nerissa that she will disclose the whole plan when they are in the coach bound for the Venetian ferry. They were to catch a ferry in order to go to Venice. So this scene actually fills up the time gap before the beginning of the trial scene, and it also acquaints us with Portia's plan to save Antonio. So scene 4, Belmont, a room in Portia's house. Enter Portia, Nerissa, Lorenzo, Jessica and Balthazar. Lorenzo, Madam, although I speak it in your presence, you have a noble and a true conceit of godlike amity, which appears most strongly in bearing thus the absence of your lord. So Lorenzo here addresses to Portia and he says that, Madam, and out of respect he says, Madam, although I speak it in your presence. Now here he's saying that if I get the permission to speak, although I speak it in your presence, means that I am speaking, but only after your permission. So that you have a noble and a true conceit means you have a very noble heart, you are very noble minded, and you have a true conceit here means you have a true understanding of godlike amity. You have the goodwill and you have the understanding of true friendship, godlike friendship. Which appears most strongly in bearing thus the absence of your lord. Which appears very strongly in bearing here means in the way you, which appears means which can be seen. Strongly means clearly. In the way you endure. In bearing here means in the way you tolerate or endure your absence, your husband's absence. So, but if you knew to whom you show this honor, how true a gentleman you send relief. But if you knew that to whom you are showing this honor, that you are showing this, even in the absence of your husband, you're being so noble, and if you knew that for whom you're trying to show this honor, this honorable thing, how true a gentleman you send relief, if you knew how truly you're sending your relief to a gentle man, Antonio, he's referring to Antonio, how dear a lover of my Lord your husband, and how dear he is, how close he is to my Lord and your husband Bassanio. So he is trying to tell Portia that she's being very noble, that even in this hour when her husband Bassanio is not there, she is being so noble, and how much honor she's bestowing upon the true gentleman Antonio, and how much relief she's sending to him. Only if she knew that how close he was to her husband Bassanio. Then he says, I know you would be prouder of the work than customary bounty can enforce you. Now, customary bounty here means usual generosity. Portia was a generous woman. So he says, I know you would be prouder of the work than what you're doing now. You would be really proud of it than you would be, with your usual generosity. You are a very generous person, but you are going to be prouder of yourself now for what you're doing. So in other words, it says you would be even more proud that you had done this deed than your usual acts of generosity. Portia, I never did repent for doing good, nor shall not now. She says, I've never regretted doing good to others, and I will not regret it even now, for in companions that do converse and waste the time together. Because she says that friends, companions means friends, that converse, that talk to each other, and waste the time together here means spend the time together. Whose souls do bear an equal yoke of love, means whose souls are joined together by the same bond of love. Just like oxen are joined by a yoke. So students, I hope you know what oxen are. So oxen, a breed of cattle, and then she says, and there must be needs like a proportion of lineaments. Then she says there must necessarily be needs. Be needs here means necessarily be. Like a proportion of lineaments means there must be certainly be some amount of same characteristics. Lineaments means characteristics of manners and of spirit. Spirit here means disposition. So now when two friends, they can talk together, they spend their time together, their souls are joined together by the same bond of love, then there necessarily be then a like proportion means the same proportion of there has to be the same kind of characteristics between both of them, the same kind of manners and the same spirit, the same energy, the same disposition between the two, being the bosom lover of which makes me think that this Antonio being the bosom lover of my Lord, and this makes me think that Antonio, who is such a close bosom lover, means bosom is referring to the heart, who's a lover of my heart, a lover of my Lord from all his heart. Means, in other words, bosom lover here means intimate friend, close friend, one whom you love with all your heart. So which makes me think that this Antonio is actually a very intimate friend of my husband, must needs be like my Lord, and so he must definitely be just like my Lord. If they are so close, so Antonio also has to possess the same characteristics as Bassanio. In other words, she's trying to praise Bassanio for his manners, for his disposition, for his characteristics. And so the same would be found in Antonio, since they are so close together. If it be so, how little is the cost I have bestowed. And if it be so means if this is going to be true, then how little is the cost I have bestowed. Means how small is the expense. Cost means expense, which I have incurred in purchasing the semblance of my soul. Incurred to redeem the likeness of my husband's soul. Then I have paid very little to redeem the likeness of my husband's soul. That is Antonio. From out the state of hellish cruelty, from a state of hellish misery, then that means I've paid very little to get a person out of this hellish misery. I've paid very little because their souls seem to be the same, their manners, their characteristics seem to be the same. So it seems that I have, spent a very small amount on a person like my husband. This too comes too near the praising of myself. Now she says that I think I'm getting too close to praise my own self. Therefore, no more of it. Therefore, I'm not going to speak anything more about this. Here are other things. Now listen to other things, Lorenzo. I commit into your hands. I commit into your hands means I give you the responsibility. I entrust to you the husbandry and manage of my house. The control, husbandry is the control and the management of my house until my Lord's return. Till my Lord Bassanio returns, I am entrusting to you the management and the control of my house. Now before these lines, when she talks about purchasing the semblance of my soul. Now semblance of my soul, according to Portia, lovers must be like each other in soul, and so close friends must also resemble each other. Therefore she says that therefore Antonio must resemble Bassanio, and whose soul resembles Portia's own. So that is why after this she goes on to say that I'm not going to this is like praising my own self, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Then she turns to Lorenzo and she starts speaking that you have to manage and control the house because of my husband's absence. So I hope you've understood this well, children. Again, I'll take this up, the semblance of my soul. Now, according to Portia, the two lovers, they must be like each other in soul, and so close friends must also resemble each other. Therefore, Antonio must resemble Bassanio, whose soul actually resembles Portia's own. So I hope you've understood this connection well. Then, I have toward heaven. For mine own part, I have toward heaven breathed the secret vow. Now then she says, for my own part, as far as I am concerned, I have taken a vow towards heaven. Means I have taken an oath in front of God to live in prayer and contemplation. Because I am going to live I've breathed the secret vow, made a secret vow, a promise to God that I am going to live in prayer and meditation only attended by Nerissa here, and I'll be only accompanied by Nerissa, nobody else, no other attendant except Nerissa, until her husband and my lord's return, until her husband Gratiano and my lord Bassanio, they return. Until they return, there is a monastery 2 miles off. There's a monastery 2 miles away. Monastery, my dear children, is a place where monks stay and worship. They meditate, they pray. And then she says that there's a monastery just 2 miles away from here, and we will abide there. We will stay there. I do desire you not to deny this imposition. So what I desire here, that I want you not to deny this task. Imposition means this task. Who is she telling? She's telling Lorenzo that I don't want you to deny this task of managing and controlling my house in the absence of my husband Bassanio, because I am also, along with Nerissa, going to live in a monastery 2 miles away from here. The which my love and some necessity now lays upon you. The which means which my love and my present necessity, my requirement, makes me place upon you. I have given you a task which my love, that is Bassanio, and my present requirement makes me place upon you. So please look after my house carefully. Lorenzo, Madam, with all my heart I shall obey you in all fair commands. Then he says very heartily, I'm going to obey you in all the honored commands and orders of yours. Portia, my people do already know my mind. My people here means my servants. Already know my mind means they know my intention, and will acknowledge you and Jessica, and they will recognize your authority and also Jessica in place of Lord Bassanio and myself, and they will give you that same authority, as Bassanio's and mine. So Lorenzo and Jessica are going to manage the house of Portia now in her absence and her husband's absence. And so farewell till we shall meet again. And so goodbye till we meet again. Lorenzo, fair thoughts and happy hours attend on you. He says that may pleasant thoughts and happy times be with you. Jessica, I wish your ladyship all hearts content. I wish you, my lady, the fulfillment of all the desires of your heart. Whatever you wish in your heart, I wish that gets fulfilled. Portia, I thank you for your wish. Now Portia is thanking Jessica and Lorenzo for their wishes, and I'm well pleased to wish it back on you. And I'm very happy to wish the same for you. So fare you well, Jessica. Exeunt Jessica and Lorenzo. So Jessica and Lorenzo exit. Now Balthazar. Now she's referring to her servant Balthazar. As I have ever found thee honest true, as I have always found you honest and trustworthy. True means trustworthy. So let me find thee still. Let me find you still that same honest and trustworthy person. Take this same letter and use thou all the endeavour of a man. Take this same letter. Now she says, now take this letter, the same letter, and with all the endeavour of a man, with all the speed, all as fast as a man can go, with all the speed of a man. Take it fast in speed to Padua. Take it to Padua. See, thou render this, and see that you give this. And who is she actually instructing to give it to? To her cousin, Dr. Bellerio. So, my dear children, we'll do the rest of this on the next turn. So here I finish with this last line of Portia, and we'll continue on the next turn with her speech. So please revise well and complete the assignment given. Thank you.